Chapter 13. Closer. No! Lillian could only stare in horror as her arrow seemed to travel in slow motion at Alexander. Just before the scream escaped her mouth, the arrow stopped. In midair. Alexander had caught it just before it hit his shoulder. Nice shot! Lillian freaked and ran toward him. Oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm so sorry, are you okay? I didn't mean to, I just heard the twig and I thought, oh the Fae, are you hurt? She grabbed him and checked his shoulder. Lillian, I'm okay. He grabbed her attention. I'm okay. Really? He looked at her panic-stricken eyes. Lillian, I'm okay. Look. He stepped back and did a little twirl around. See? I'm okay. I caught it. He lifted up the arrow. Her heart was still beating fast, but her breathing was starting to slow. But I didn't see you. It was so fast. I just reacted. I'm so sorry. Lillian, it's okay. Look, I'm the one that should be sorry. I should have said something. You did exactly what I asked you to do. I know, but it was all too fast. How did you do that? Alexander just shrugged his shoulders. Reflex. Like catching a ball? She eyed him. Yep, like catching a ball, he said. She was not happy with that answer. Come on, let's check out the targets. On top of her almost killing him, she couldn't bear the embarrassment of how she did. She closed her eyes as he led her back to the middle of the grove. Her eyes were still closed. Okay, be honest. How bad did I do? Open your eyes and find out. She didn't want to, but knew he wasn't going to tell her. Slowly she glanced around. 20 targets in all. She had hit the last 12 solid. The last 4 were inches from the bullseye. She turned around to see Alexander just smiling at her. Impressed? Yes. They took a break to calm Lillian's nerves and eat lunch. Alexander had prepared more than just cheese and chocolate. He had an array of fruits and meats along with a loaf of bread. Where did you get all this? Lillian asked as she fished the items out of the saddlebags. Alexander had a strong-looking horse named Winston, who reminded her of one of the Crutcher's newspaper horses, but bigger. He had a beautiful charcoal coat and a matching tail, and didn't seem to mind a stranger grabbing the provisions. As she closed the saddlebags, a blanket shifted, and it revealed the hilt of a sword. I wonder if he's as good with that as he is with his arrows. She brought the food back to a blanket he had laid out under a tree. He walked back from the creek with a bottle in his hand. What's that? Some thackleberry juice to go with our meal. The creek keeps it cool. They ate in relative silence. Lillian was hungrier than she thought. You really are full of surprises, Mr. Elwood, she managed to say between bites. Well, I'm glad I keep you entertained, Miss Charming, he replied as he lobbed a bit of cheese into his mouth. When she was done, she laid back against the tree. The day was beautiful with a light breeze, and the shade was the perfect temperature for a nap. She wasn't sure how long she had dozed off, but she awoke to Alexander gently shaking her. Ready for round 2? He asked as he helped her up. She yawned, taking his hand. How long was I out for? Not long. You just looked so peaceful snoring under the tree. Lillian hit him playfully. Princesses do not snore. Ow! You know, we really need to find a different way for you to express yourself, he teased as he rubbed his arm. They walked over to the equipment. More target practice? Kind of. Now that you have a way to practice your speed, I need to show you how to do small targets to help your aim. That bad, huh? Not at all. But let's just say I wouldn't want you saving me from falling off a bridge quite yet. He gave her a teasing smile and handed her some more Calderan steel arrows. They walked out to the other side of the creek where the grass tickled Lillian's knees. A few paces in, Alexander stopped. Okay, now I want you to understand what I can do and what I'm teaching you I've been doing for most of my life. So I don't want you to get discouraged if you don't hit anything. Think of it like painting. You know some brush strokes, you've got a good picture going, but now we're going to focus on the details. And some painters can take years to figure out how to do the details, okay? Yeah, but it sounds like I should already be preparing myself to fail. Not at all. But you said you wanted to shoot like me, like only 5 people on the entire continent. I just don't want you to be upset if it takes you a while to become the 6th. He squeezed her shoulder. You really think I could be as good as you? After what you've done in the last few weeks and in the grove just now? Yeah, he mimicked his father's voice. You must have some fey blood in you, boy. She laughed. All right then, I've already set up the targets while you were sleeping, he teased. She looked out. I don't see anything. He got up next to her and pointed. She inhaled the sun-warmed skin and clean scent of him. By the fey, he smells inviting. Look out about 20 paces. See that red dot? She squinted a little and could barely make out a small red point just above the grass line. It matched the color of his necklace. You mean that freckle? She asked incredulously. Yep. There's another one about 45 degrees to the right, about 10 more paces out, and then another to the left even further out. Sure enough, there was one that stuck out against the darkness of the mountains, and another out toward the coastline. Based on the distance and size, Lillian figured the targets couldn't be bigger than a tea saucer, if that. This is going to be impossible. You expect me to hit those? Lillian could only imagine how long she would have to practice to hit those targets at all, let alone consistently. Eventually, well, yes, I do. His gray eyes peered into hers. I believe in you. She lost her breath for a moment. So you ready for your next lesson? He said, breaking the moment. Breathe. Yeah. All right now, hitting small targets is a little different. Usually you're not acting on reflex, so you do have time to aim, but there's a lot more variables to factor in. Distance being the first and wind being a close second. Hopefully being able to see the grass waving will help with the wind. What arrow you're shooting with can also come into play, so that's why I try to only use the steel ones if I can. But I thought you said an archer is known by his aim, not his arrows, she said with a smirk. Ah, so you have been listening. The student becomes the teacher, eh? Well, why don't you tell me what you remember about our first lesson? It's more about feeling than thinking? Very good. Now realize these targets are smaller and farther out than the first time, but the concept is still the same. But this time, don't close your eyes. Try to fade out everything else. Visualize the target by itself. Feel the wind. Breathe out on release. And here, follow through is just as important as the setup. Hold your form. Let the arrow do the flying. I know it sounds like a lot to think about, but it's just like shooting fast. Simply put, practice. Give it a spell and you'll do well, Lillian quoted the old saying. Exactly. So I'm going to give you some time while I go scout out our lesson for tomorrow. If you need anything, just ask Winston. Okay, I will, she laughed. No, I'm serious. He's a really smart horse. Okay, I won't be gone long. Maybe enough for you to go through a set for each target. Alexander walked away, leaving Lillian to her task. The first target wasn't bad. She never hit it, but got close a couple of times. The other two targets were more elusive. She either misjudged the distance or the wind, both of which Alexander mentioned were the biggest factors, so she didn't feel too bad. He still hadn't made it back yet, and the mid-afternoon sun had made Lillian thirsty. She went back to the picnic area and hunted around for some water, or at least a cup for the creek. Nothing. Okay, Winston, she said as she stroked his mane. Let's see how smart you are. Does Alexander have a cup or something for water? Winston looked at her for a second and then trotted over to the creek. Great. I mentioned water and he goes to get a drink. He lowered his head down to the water, but then came up with a rope in his mouth. At the end of the rope was a bottle filled with water. He walked back over to Lillian. Wow, you really are a smart horse. She took a nice gulp. Winston let out a small whinny, then bent his head back to the bag. When Lillian didn't respond right away, he did it again. What is it, Winston? Once again, he nudged the bag. Lillian decided to investigate and found a small pouch of sugar cubes. Oh, is this what you want? She teased. Winston neighed, raising his head up and down. Okay, boy, here you go. I see, coaxed you into a treat, Alexander said, walking up. Well, he did get me water. Told you he was smart. I stand corrected. Like I said, I don't have many friends, and Winston's a good conversationalist. He doesn't argue with me too much. He motioned to the field. So how'd you do? Ask again in 3 weeks. That bad, huh? Well, don't worry. You'll get better. Plus, it's not like you're trying to pierce the heart of a dragon. Well, not any time soon, let's hope. Not any time ever, as far as Lillian knew. King Philip was the last person she knew who had had an encounter with a dragon, and it was believed to be the last. The setting sun indicated Lillian needed to go. I should probably head home. I've really enjoyed today, though. Me too. It's nice having a friend. Just a friend. Right. So what's on the agenda tomorrow? Lillian asked. I was thinking about trying moving targets, but I don't want to overwhelm you with everything. I'm good. I know I need to practice in the other areas still, but this will give me some variety so I don't get bored. Makes sense. Hopefully a certain someone isn't gone for 3 weeks again. Yeah, sorry about that. Had some things to help out with at home. I know, I'm just giving you a hard time, but I was getting worried. You were worried about me? Well, yeah, it's what friends do. They both smiled, but then fell into an uncomfortable silence. Winston helped out with an A. Lillian seized the opportunity to clear the awkwardness. So, I should get going. Same time tomorrow? Yep. Okay, see you then. She was already anxious and excited. Looking forward to it. She turned to walk off before he could see her blush. Oh, and Lillian? Alexander called out. She turned around. Where's something you don't mind getting wet? She gave him an inquisitive look, and he just smiled as she watched him stroll away. You are full of surprises, Mr. Elwood. She knew she'd have trouble sleeping again tonight.